Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Archetype Guide. We hope you're having a fantastic Saturday if you're watching this on Saturday. And if you're watching it on another day, honestly, I hope your day is going horrible. Today, we're going to be talking about the Survivor Exile mechanic. Sorry, not mechanic, archetype. And what is the goal of this archetype? I'm going to probably be doing a lot of talking in this episode, so Travis, I'm going to pass this one to you. What is the goal of this archetype?
I mean, there isn't really the goal is always just to play the game good. It's more like using Deja Vu to make cards to leverage cards that have powerful effects, but you're supposed to pay for them in experience because they exile to do that with minimal downside.
Yeah, because it doesn't really actually influence... The archetype doesn't really impact the game. You're just playing cards and then not paying for them later. Why don't we go and talk about Deja Vu, which is... this card recently got released in the Stella Clark deck, and it kind of cracked the egg wide open for this archetype. So exiling, whenever you use a card that exiles itself, it's removed from your deck completely. And this was a big thing, especially in Dunwich Legacy and all that. It was Red's thing. They didn't get higher than 3 experience cards, and most of their cards cost 1 experience because you use them, they get removed from your deck, and then you buy to put it back in. It was kind of a weird thing that ultimately I'm glad have moved away from, and now they're starting to get actually 4 and 5 experience cost cards. Because while Exile is cool, it's very limiting when it's all you can really do. But luckily, Deja Vu got released. It's a permanent, in between 2 scenarios of a campaign. Reduce the experience cost to repurchase up to 3 cards that you exiled during the last scenario by 1 each. This is really great because the majority of them only cost 1 experience. There are ones that cost more, but as you can see on these slides here, and you'll see on the next slides coming up, a good chunk of them only cost 1. So when you use them, you can just replace them without doing experience. First card over here after Deja Vu is Flare. This one is one of my personal... I have a very soft spot for this card. And then I realized when I read the whole card, I was playing it with the worst options. So you get a fight for one of the actions when you play it. You get +3 fist and deal +2 damage for this attack and exile Flare. You can also search the top 9 cards of any investigator's deck for an ally asset and put that into play under your control, then exile Flare, shuffle the search deck. So you see, both effects remove exile Flare from your deck, and you'll have to rebuy it. Luckily with Deja Vu, you can repurchase it for free, because it's 1 less... it reduces the cost to when you want to repurchase it. This on its function side of the +3 fist and +2 damage is very spicy, and the downside now of Flare having to rebuy it isn't a downside anymore, and you can buy other more exciting cards. A Test of Will, the ally side's fun, but the damage side is actually it's a nice little punch there. Test of Will is a very strong card. It's essentially just a ward of protection. A ward of protection because you can, on any investigator your location, draws a non-weakness treachery card, and you get to cancel that card's revelation effect, and then you exile a Test of Will. Like Flare, it only costs 1 experience, so you get to put it back in your deck with Deja Vu, and then it's just basically boom, ward of protection. Boom, they're not stopping. I'm red, and I'm just stopping all the things that show up to me. It's a good time. This next one's a bit wild. Devil's Luck, it's fast. Play when you are dealt damage and or horror. Cancel up to 10 damage and or horror just dealt to you, then exile Devil's Luck. Can you guys think of anything else that deals that much damage to you beside that Yogg Sothoth card?
Okay, so hear me out. You got Drawing Thins in play, and you use them both on a Rotting Remains.
Yeah.
And then you play this instead of taking 7 horror.
That, yeah. I mean, yeah. And then also, I suppose, Azathoth hits for 6 in total, right? Mm-hmm. So this would have been great in the Rougarou when we were getting slammed by that one.
This one's kind of why don't we just slap 10 on it?
Yeah.
Because we're the first design cycle of the game. We don't know where things are going to go.
So, ultimately in this archetype, Devil's Luck is a great, one of to have. It probably actually also is pretty good with what's his nuts, Kelvin.
Yep.
Because it's like a panic button you can press and then rebuy. So like it has a home. Not in every Exile deck, not in every red deck, but there are times when Devil's Luck will actually give you exactly what you need when you need it. And then use Deja Vu and just get it right back. Travis, I'll give these ones to you. Because I don't want Bryn to badmouth Leather Coat and Cherish Keepsake. This isn't the place.
They're trash.
First one is Guiding Spirit. This one is an ally that can take 3 horror damage, commits for brain, costs 1 to play, gives you +1 book, and non-direct horror must be assigned to Guiding Spirit before it can be assigned to your Investigator card, and of course, if it is defeated by horror, you exile it. Non-direct horror you can, of course, assign to other cards that you may have, other allies if you're playing a Charisma deck, or your Cherish Keepsake or whatever to keep this in play. And while it does take up your ally slot, it can take a reasonable amount of horror, and paying 1 for a stack +1 book is like a very, very good rate. Mm-hmm. Not many other cards give you that kind of rate. Next one are the Mirrored Leather Coat and Cherish Keepsake. They both cost 0, 1 experience put in your deck. If they're defeated by the thing they can take, the kind of damage they can take, you exile them, they take up their respective slots, and they can take their respective damage. If you are using... These are like just super cheap versions of like Bulletproof Vest and Elder Sign Amulet, basically. They take a bunch of hits for you, and if you lose them, you have to pay for them again, but that's a lot better than dying.
Yeah. And like, realistically, even if your deck's loaded with Exile cards, you're going to have experience to buy more if you go over Deja Vu, but also it's very likely that you won't need to buy more than 3, like rebuy more than 3 Exile cards. Because this archetype...
You got your deck.
It doesn't make a deck.
Right.
It's not like this is the only thing your deck's doing. This is just a package of your deck, right?
Yeah. Yep. And the last one we got here is Fortune or Fate, which is an event that costs 2 to play, 2 experience put in your deck. Commits for a wild, but like, why would you? Fast, you play when Doom would be placed on any scenario card, max 1 of them per game, and cancel 1 Doom just placed on that card, then you exile it. This is a fantastic card for just like random survivor decks to put into their deck going into the last scenario, where it just buys you an entire extra turn. And like, it's nice to have. You might not want 2 copies of this in your deck because you can only play 1 for game, which I guess is the situation where you would commit to a test.
Yeah. But I mean, like, this will still do its work as just a 1 of.
It's very strong.
Yeah.
Canceling Doom place on a card can be huge depending on the scenario, especially like some of the Forgotten Age ones where the Doom doesn't go away if it's put on a location, something like that.
Yep. Does it, when you use it on an Ancient Evils, if it would cause it to advance, would it not advance because the Doom wasn't placed on it? Or would it advance?
I would
say no, because it cancels it.
Yeah, like I would figure it would depend whether you were over threshold or not.
Mm-hmm.
Like if somebody before you had drawn like an Acolyte,
yeah,
that put you to threshold, and then you drew the Ancient Evils, I would figure it probably still would, because like sure the Doom didn't get placed, like threshold was still checked. But if it doesn't put you over threshold anymore,
man. Yeah, I think both things make sense, and sometimes this game just throws a curveball at you that, interesting. But yeah, like, this is one that you would have to pay 1 experience for each time because it costs 2, but it's a very powerful effect, and as Travis says, you're probably really only running 1 of these in most of your decks, because it's kind of just, it's not something you depend on, it's just nice to have when you need it. All right. I guess I'll take these ones. This is my week, so I'll talk. Bryn talked a lot last week. This one's mine. Stroke of Luck. Commit only to a skill test you perform, and it commits for a wild. After revealing chaos tokens for this test, you may choose to exile Stroke of Luck. If you do, this test is automatically successful unless the auto fail was revealed. I am like, I have been wanting to try this Exile archetype for a long time in a Survivor deck, and I haven't been able to play one of my own decks on this channel for a very long time, and I really am excited for this like Exile thing and this Stroke of Luck. It seems strong, right? Like not as strong as some of the other cards we've seen, but just being able to automatically succeed a test at the cost of this card is pretty awesome. And then you have it in someone like Silas, and if you just don't want to use it, you can just bring it back into your hand for when you want to like automatically succeed. Just like the ability to, this is kind of like that one Seal of the Elder Sign, or whatever that one Mystic card that Travis loves that turns your token into the Elder Sign token. This is kind of like a similar. Sorry?
Seal of the Elder Sign.
Thank you. This is kind of like in a similar space where this card essentially just reads pass your test, right? Of note, though, this is kind of a weird little rule interaction that someone pointed out to me. There's a difference between passing a test and a test automatically succeeding. So just slow your roll if you're thinking about something like that. A card that does this that you can rebuy for only one experience seems like a very good time. We have the level 2 Test of Will, which honestly I feel like the level 1 Test of Will and the level 2 Test of Will are dependent entirely on the investigator that you're playing with. The level 2 one is fast. Play when investigator location draws a non-weakness treachery card. Cancel that card's revelation effect just like the last one. Then test Brain 3. If you fail, exile a Test of Will. So you can actually keep it in your deck. Rebuying it only costs 1 experience, which is still a good rate. However, this is not something that like you could go up to it, or you can just be like, my investigator has 3 brain. I'd rather not do an additional test when this comes. I'd rather just cancel it and move on and just rebuy it. However, if you have a survivor investigator or someone who can play level 0 to 2 red cards that can has a high brain score, this is a very nice thing to get. Of course, with that, if you're the off-class survivor, you won't have access to Deja Vu, so rebuying it becomes a little bit messy. But then the plan is just don't rebuy it. Just pass your brain test. So like, it's a repeatable Test of Will that you don't need to buy over and over and over again, potentially. So I think both are good choices. I don't think one is necessarily always 100% better than the other. It depends entirely on your investigator and the build you're going for. Cool. What does this archetype synergize with? Great question, Justin. Let me answer you. It synergizes with offensive builds. A lot of the 1 XP Exile cards are defensive. I think the only one that like isn't is Flare. Everything else is about keeping you safe or protecting you against the game. So this archetype can do well as a defensive part of an offensive build. That's kind of like why my gut runs to like, but that's also my own bias. Like a Silas Exile I think is going to be really fun when I get to it. But that's just because Silas is a very offensive character. And if I had a bunch of these Exile cards that I could use over and over again to defend myself with, it's just, it works really well with an offensive style archetype. It also synergizes with experienced cards. After the initial investment of Deja Vu and then your first buy of the Exile cards, your Exile cards can be maintained with little to no XP, allowing you to buy into another archetype or other high-cost experienced cards. As we said, this archetype doesn't really have a goal like the other ones did, and it doesn't really do anything. So it's kind of just like the complement to the other archetypes that you could explore and experience with your deck. I'm very excited to play it. I think it's really cool, and I think the deck that Travis made here is pretty awesome. So Travis, drum roll please. I'm going to pass the deck to you.
Yeah, this is a Calvin deck, and you play Exile cards to not die. It's important. It's also an on your own deck, so that way you don't have to have like real economy to play all your garbage. Mm-hmm. Got Meat Cleaver here so we can fight. Don't really need anything to boost. I mean, I made this deck before the Innsmouth Conspiracy came out, I think, and I might have included Mariner's Compass in this now. Mm-hmm. So this synergizes quite well with On Your Own. but generally just having like 4 or 5 book is, or like 5 book I guess, is like it's a pretty good place to be. Got the Cherished Keepsakes, the Leather Coats, Test of Wills, Devil's Lucks, Stroke of Luck as well and the Perseverances can all keep you from dying, even though you're rolling around with only like 1 or 2 sanity and health remaining. Deja Vus, again, this you could probably get with just 1 Deja Vu if you wanted, but they will keep you from having to spend too much experience, so you can keep improving your deck. Fireflies is a great card, staple for Calvin. Flare is a fantastic fighting option. And also, like, it's kind of... I don't know how it interacts with on your own. If you can steal someone else's ally and have it, but whatever. Improvised Weapon, Wing It, both just solid events to play. Trial by Fire, again, really good for those early game. Actually, just like makes you pumped in late game. That's right. That's how that works. It buffs your base 1, right? And then your ability gives you extra.
If you are playing the exceptional on your own, there is no restriction against you having an ally in play. Merely you cannot play one in your deck.
Yeah, yes, you can use Flare to get around that and get your teammates to play the allies you want to play.
Oh, spicy.
And then again, like Resourceful is in every red deck, and Rest Occasion is another one of them staple Calvin cards. So it's just like it's a pretty quote unquote basic Calvin deck, just with a very heavy emphasis on the Exile cards.
Yeah. Bryn, as who I would call our Calvin expert, any insight you want to add to this?
There are a lot of interesting blue spirits that you have access to as Calvin that might be worth checking out, but none of them exile themselves. So, be aware of that.
Once we visit Calvin in a future video, which we definitely will. But I think for this Exile thing, it seems sweet, and also just like your Leather Coat and Cherished Keepsake soak so much damage and horror. Like, it's tasty.
Yeah, also if you find a second copy before the first one dies, if you play it while the other one has 3 on it, it will not be exiled because it wasn't defeated by horror or by damage. It was discarded because you had another card taking up its slot.
Sick. Yeah, that's some good tech.
Cute.
Some good tech. All right. Well, we have some exciting news for everybody. First off, I should say my normal spiel, which is check the description for the deck list and like and subscribe for more archetype guides. What archetype do you want to see next? Let us know. However, it is going to be a while until we get back to this archetype series, because for the next 5 weeks, we're going to be doing our new player guides for all the Innsmouth Conspiracy investigators. We're going to go in color order, so Sister Mary, Amanda Sharp, Trish Scarborough, Dexter Drake, then Mr. Marsh himself. And then after that, we're going to be doing the Blessed and Cursed archetypes. Then we're going to go back and finish out the rest of our decks. So for the next 10 weeks, you can expect a lot of Innsmouth Conspiracy content in this Saturday slot. So get ready for that. I know people have been requesting it, and we're bringing it to you. All thanks to Travis's hard work. He does a lot of he does everything for this series. I make the slides. I press buttons and get it wrong 95% of the time. Thanks for watching, everybody. You guys have a good one. We love you, and as always, GG's.